This is Part 2, Episode 196. 5,000 years. Put's voice was old and filled with worry. He had never expected the process to take over 5,000 years. The first two had only lasted 2,600 and 3,300 years respectively. Let's hope that Luo Feng succeeds. Put heaved a long sigh, his voice resounding throughout the shrine. Virtual universe, Black Dragon Mountain, 9-Star Bay. Within an ancient construct. 9-Star Bay was now used only by the highest levels of Luo Feng's family, as the many other members all lived in other places. As a family with over 10,000 years of history, plus with Luo Feng's status being akin to the Ganwu universe country leader, the family's power was huge. Walking along the exquisite stone floor, Shushin walked along the pathway followed by two ladies. As Luo Feng, the highest power in the family, was exploring the universe, everything was mostly left to his oldest son Luo Ping to handle. However, the important matters were still handled by Shushin. Shushin had a special position in the family, and also she was the CEO of the Pinghai Company. Over the 10,000 years, her position and authority grew. Just a glance from her would make others shudder. Normal people didn't even dare look up at her. However, there always seemed to be a sense of worry on her face. "Master, it's a letter from the family leader." Her virtual assistant suddenly alerted her. "Mail." She suddenly stopped, her eyes happy from the surprise. No matter how calm she was in a flurry now. He said he was off to do something important, closing off the virtual universe receiver. However, he completely vanished for 6,000 years, and was unable to be found or contacted. How can I not worry? In the world of warriors, disappearing for 6,000 years without any news, it could very likely mean one had fallen. Luckily, he had left messages for his family before he shut off his receiver. The wife seems very happy. I've never seen her so happy. She's been deep in worry the past few years. Now, however, she seems much lighter than before. The two ladies behind discussed secretly. Indeed so, Shushin was happily reading the mail. He really knows how to say the right things. She read the mail, her smile growing wider. Even the events from high school. We are already an old couple, is there a need for all these? The mail was very long. A total of tens of thousands of words. Shushin had walked from the pathway to the grass, and sat in a chair to slowly read through. This was a mail filled with emotions, from the time the two met to the time they fell in love. Shushin couldn't help but smile as she read. As she read on, suddenly her expression changed. Her body shivered as her eyes revealed shock. No. No. She stood up fiercely, roaring within, tears about to flow down. I don't want your guilt, no. This shocked the two ladies behind her. They exchanged glances and felt something amiss. Ma! Ma! An urgent shout resounded from afar as a silhouette swiftly rushed over and another from another side. They were Luo Ping and Luo Hai. They both had anxious expressions, shouting for her as they arrived. They too had received mails. Close the door, forbid anyone from entering. Shushin shouted at the two ladies. Yes. The two ladies were her personal staff. Whether it was matters with Pinghai Company or family affairs, Shushin often gave her orders through them. Even though they were just her staff, their position was akin to high-level managers of the family. Naturally, they were incredibly astute and intelligent. When they sensed something amiss, they immediately shut off the doors. Ma, what's going on? Has Dad really? Luo Ping and Luo Hai were both anxious. Shushin hugged her two sons, finding it hard to hold back her tears. This mail was something Luo Feng had actually set to send 6,000 years after he began the life or death inheritance. According to his thinking back then, The first candidate lasted 2,600 years, and the second one lasted 3,300 years. He expected the entire process to only last at most 4,000 years. It was too long, absurdly long. The two had passed the hidden tests before and had finally gone for the life or death inheritance. They were obviously both exceptional beings too. They shouldn't have been too far from the end. Luo Feng had expected 6,000 years. Since the first lasted 2,600 and the entire process should be about 4,000 years. It wouldn't be so absurd as to go on for 6,000 years, right? Who could last that long? If I succeed in this, I'll get rid of the male. If I fail, at least they will have something. After all, the moment I fall, the connection to the virtual universe has been shut and the primal chaos city leader wouldn't know about me falling. With his level of being, his training may go on for hundreds of millions of years at a time. Who knows when he would actually revive me? And Shushin's lifespan is at most 10 million years. Luo Feng was very worried. He believed that even if he fell, he would eventually be revived by his teacher. However, what if he was only revived after 10 million years? What about his wife? After his revival, what if his wife, son, parents and younger brother were all dead? Hence, he prepared a mail for them and set it to send automatically 6,000 years from when he began. Your father is in a predicament, but he did say he would return in the future. If short, 10,000 years, if long up to 10 million years. Shushin's voice shook. Right, 10 million years. Her lifespan was but that long. Would she see him again? Dad. Dad. Luo Ping and Luo Hai were shocked too. Let's go see your grandparents. Shushin suppressed the pain and said. After a while, the three of them met up with Luo Hongguo and Gongshin Lan, along with Luo Hua. They all bore a look of pain. The entire Luo family was supported by Luo Feng. The humans of Earth were the same. He had always been there, weathering the storms and allowing them to grow to such strength, allowing the humans of Earth to stand high in the entire Gan Wu universe country. However, the pillar had fallen. Little Feng, Little Feng. Gongshin Lan was shaking. Even though Luo Feng said he would return in the distant future, the family all regarded this as words to console them. Our Luo family, our Earth, is facing a huge crisis. Shushin's voice was hoarse. Everyone looked at her. The account number and password he left in the mail is for some wealth for the Luo family. It's one with a huge amount of wealth within. Shushin said. She hadn't seen him in so long. She didn't expect for him to leave an account in the mail, reaching up to 50 billion mixed elements. This was an unbelievable sum to her. Within the entire Gan Wu universe country, other than the leader himself, who would have such wealth? Everybody hurry and get ready to deal with this. She said hoarsely. The hypocrisy of the world. If Luo Feng truly fell, our family would definitely be targeted. We don't have enough strength to protect the entire huge family. I'm heading immediately to see his teacher Tru Yang and ask about him. Hurry and go. Go, leave the family to us. Luo Hongguo and Luo Hua said. She nodded. Shushin was after all a core member of the virtual universe company. With her connections and her having Tru Yang's number from a long time ago, she quickly contacted him and told him what happened. What? Return in the distant future. Tru Yang's expression changed. Unlike Shushin and the others, Tru Yang was an absolute warrior of the universe. He knew much more. He immediately understood. Luo Feng's distant future meant he would be revived. Otherwise, with the virtual universe network spreading all over the vast universe, how could they not be able to contact him? I'm going to see the primal chaos city leader. Tru Yang said urgently. Sorry to trouble you. Shushin said anxiously. I am his teacher. True Yang immediately left the virtual universe network. Primal Chaos City. True Yang immediately rushed to the city leader's residence to request a visit. What level of being was the city leader? Even True Yang had almost no possibility of ever seeing his true body, unless there were extenuating circumstances. This time, True Yang saw him. You say that he might have fallen. The city leader sat crossed-legged across the vast wasteland of corpses. Yes. True Yang said respectfully. He's still alive. The city leader said. Alive? True Yang was shocked. I can confirm that he's been in the 7th battlefield Star Tower, and he's been there the past 6,000 years. The city leader said. He hasn't connected to the network for the past 6,000 years, but I can confirm his life energy is still there. At most, he should be in some trouble. It's normal for danger to appear within Star Tower. True Yang was somewhat nervous when he heard that was the Star Tower. On the surface, the tower only had forbidden guards in spaces. However, in truth, it had many dangers about. One had to know that it was a place that even universe masters didn't dare mess about within. Star Tower. Within the shrine surrounded by countless sealed stars, the floor was stained in a layer of blood. Luo Feng sat there, his body shivering from the pain, as blood flowing all around. The Sector Lord body's regeneration was incredibly strong, the main core could give never-ending energy to recover, yet he kept bleeding. His body was about to crumble everywhere. This was the result of intense pain from the soul. It was obvious that the pain from his soul was absurd. 6,000 years. 5,000 years ago, he was already close to his limit, and at 5,600 years, he had completely reached his limit already. He was able to evolve at the critical moment last time. I don't believe that he can be so lucky this time. However, from the 5,600 year to the 6,000 year, it's been 400 years. Just what amount of strength does he have? Put sat crossed-legged and looked at Luo Feng shocked. He couldn't imagine how he could still hold on even after reaching his limit 400 years ago. The pain on his soul had already reached its limit, and he had no way to suppress it anymore. Luo Feng couldn't study the beast god path anymore, and his consciousness was simply holding on by a thread, withstanding the tearing of his soul. I want to see you all again. You all. You all. Luo Feng's consciousness held on to one single thing, that was his family. His parents and brother, his wife. He didn't want to be revived to a time where they were all gone. He couldn't accept that. At the final point, his heart only held that one thought, his family. I wish. I really wish. His soul began to crumble, however a formless willpower forced it back together. Crumble, form, amidst the struggle, his only thought held him together. Within he called out to his family. He was guilty, he couldn't bear to. That crystal however continued to meld and tear his soul apart. His soul was about to crumble. I really wish. You all. He was already unable to even think, as his soul was on the brink of shattering. Just one thought forced his soul to stick together, the only surviving thought. You are still fighting, your soul is already crumbling. Put sighed. Child, you are too tired, just give up. With his unbelievable power as a universe master, he had seen the state of Luo Feng's soul. He had begun to care for this child. You have already spent 6,000 years you've struggled with this, yet you've only lived past 10,000 years. You are too young. And still a child. He shook his head. He was the first underling of the Great Being. From the most ancient of times, he had followed the Great Being throughout the universe, and he had lived an incredibly long life. In his eyes, the Sector Lord lifespan of 1,000 eras was only maturity. As for Luo Feng's 6,000 years of struggle with the inheritance, he had only lived past 10,000 years. In the vast universe, it was indeed tender. Cuckoo. Luo Feng's body shook as it unconsciously made noise, as fresh blood flowed. Almost like a fish on shore that was about to die. He was struggling. He couldn't die that easily, even if he knew he would be revived eventually. Put's snake tail lay across the ground. He looked on at Luo Feng, who could fall at any time. He understood that this youth was fighting with everything he had. You are impressive. The first one lasted 2,600 years, while the second one lasted 3,300 years. Yet, you've been here over 6,000 years. It's already very impressive, and you should be proud. Just give up. Put was very clear on what Luo Feng was going through, who was even unable to even think, while his soul was falling apart. Star Tower. Why is this inheritance so hard? He sighed, looking at the unconscious, shivering and bleeding Luo Feng. Luo Feng had a life-changing event before. That was when he immolated his soul to fight the golden horned beast. During that time he was supposed to die too. He was willing to give it all up to kill the beast. Fate plays tricks on people. He didn't expect to actually possess the beast and begin a whole new life. He was the pride of the genius battle, the Ganwu universe investigator, the disciple of the primal chaos city leader. He had massacred emperors till he got the name Blade River Emperor, intrepid. Incredibly exciting. Now he was at this point again. This was the second life-changing event. If he succeeded, he would live on. If he failed, he would fall. His body unconsciously made cracking noises, as his expression was warped. His skin was torn apart, even more tragic than most dead people. Live or die. Luo Feng struggled on this thin fine line. The mad winds blew at him, blowing him towards the side of death, but his love and affection for his family made him fight hard to hold on, pulling himself to side of living. However, every thought had its limit, and if the inheritance continued, his soul would continue to be torn up stronger than before. I wish, really wish. Luo Feng was like a person running on the highway being chased by the cars, running as fast as he could. However, the traffic behind was speeding up and gradually catching up. Finally they caught up. Within the thousands of forbidden spaces in Star Tower, many undyings from all over were suddenly shocked. What's going on? Why are the forbidden spaces shaking? Rumble. Almost like a giant who was shaking every space violently, the entire 9 light-year tall tower shook. However, with the 9 whirlpools around, it was hard to tell. The countless undyings within all didn't know what had happened. Simultaneously, within an incredibly distant dangerous area, amidst vast energies, a lonely palace glowing with green light floated up. The many underlings within were all knights. Within a huge throne, a majestic old man over 90,000 kilometers tall sat there, listening to the reports from his underlings. Suddenly, his expression changed and he looked far away, almost like he saw through time and space, right at the Star Tower. The process of the Star Tower recognizing an owner has been going on for so long, that youth actually lasted past it. Ha ha. 8 trillion years of waiting, the Earth race has finally produced an exceptional warrior. He got up suddenly, vanishing from sight. Success. Put looked shocked at Luo Feng, who had stopped shivering. He had felt Luo Feng's consciousness slowly fading away, almost like it was about to end. He would at most last another 2 to 3 years. Luo Feng had already lasted 6,092 years. What was 2 to 3 years before the thousands of years before? Anyone would have known that the end was coming. Even if he fought hard, with no more fuel left, he would naturally stop moving altogether. And just earlier, that crystal had finally completely melded with his soul, the fusion was a success. Fate decreed so. Actually, if Luo Feng didn't have such a sturdy heart, withstanding the pain for so long, the evolution wouldn't even have happened 3,200 years ago. Without that evolution, no matter how strong he was, he wouldn't have lasted another 3,000 years. Even with that evolution, if he didn't hold on to his thought for close to 500 years. This final moment. The final evolution. Even with miracles, one needs hard work to create opportunities. Success. Luo Feng opened his eyes, as his world energy shook off all the blood on his body. His eyes were incredibly fatigued and joyful. I've succeeded, I can return to you all. He was relaxed and gleeful. The extreme fatigue on his soul overtook him and consumed his consciousness. Rumble. Luo Feng, who had been sitting crossed-legged all this while, even when death was upon him, suddenly fell and lay on the ground motionless. He had fallen into a deep sleep. He's fallen asleep. He actually fell asleep. Put smiled at the scene. It's rare for a sector lord to fall asleep from fatigue. An undying would fall into a coma when they lost too much of their undying body. And the moment a sector lord's soul collapses, they die. Unless it was like Luo Feng's condition, where he forced too much out of his soul, far exceeding the limits of a sector lord's soul. Hence he fell asleep right after succeeding. His soul itself was too tired, it required time to recover. However, normally warriors who are able to unleash their soul strength were already considered not bad, much less exceeding its limits. For a sector lord to lose consciousness from fatigue was incredibly rare. 1 month, 2 months, 3 months. For a sector lord to be so tired that he required sleep, the sleep naturally lasted a long time. However, as his soul was still complete, it wouldn't be as long as an undying recovering from a coma. Luo Feng slept for over 9 years. He hadn't dreamt like that in a long time. He lay within the shrine of Star Tower, smiling as he lay there. He seemed to dream of happy things. At this time, beside him in the shrine, there were 2 incredibly terrifying beings of the universe there watching the scene. Luo Feng's eyes gradually opened. He slept so deep that he dreamt of many things. It was clear his soul had completely recovered. When his dream finished, he opened his eyes. Child. A warm voice resounded. Just like the voice from the black metal board, it made Luo Feng stand up immediately and turn about. There were 2 silhouettes. One was the familiar Universe Master Put. At this time, he sat crossed-legged and had kept his power, remaining low profile. And right ahead, in the center, stood a majestic, over 900 m tall huge silhouette. He wore a normal green armor and had 2 translucent horns on his forehead. He was looking down at Luo Feng. His vast energy engulfed the entire shrine. Amidst the vast energy, Luo Feng felt like a normal human being covered by the sun. There was no sense of threat, instead it was very comfortable. It also made him realize this wasn't pressure, but the natural life energy this being emitted. Just this energy alone far exceeded Put's, and even the primal chaos city leaders. The universe laws, I can't feel them anymore. Luo Feng was shocked. How is this possible? Why can't I feel the laws? The warriors all trained in feeling the laws and comprehending them. The clearer they were, the faster they trained. However, whether it was his human body, or the Mosha body, or the golden horned beast, they all similarly couldn't feel a hint of the laws, just as though this being before him, his life energy forced even the laws of the universe away. This is the power of the great being. Luo Feng looked at this over 900 m tall majestic old being. Feeling shock within, even the laws of the universe are no match for him. It's no wonder he can create the 9-volume manual, something that goes against the laws altogether. This is simply too over 900 m tall. It shocked Luo Feng. Human beings were hardly ever that tall. He didn't know that this being's normal size was actually over 90,000 kilometers tall. As a completely unique life form, in terms of talent and bloodline level, it was much higher than the golden horned beast. However, to enter the shrine to see Luo Feng, he shrank himself to only 900 m. Congratulations, from now on, you are the leader of the Earth race. You have the right to become an absolute warrior of the universe. The majestic being's voice thundered throughout the hall straight into Luo Feng's heart. Beside him, the Universe Master Put was smiling at him too, and was happy for him. Third Junior, congratulations. The words, have the right to become an absolute warrior, made Luo Feng excited. This was coming from the great being of the universe himself, able to match up to the founder of the huge Axe Dojo. In the eyes of this great being, to even begin to be called an absolute warrior, one had to at least be a universe master. He had two disciples. One was Put, a universe master. The second was the leader of the Yangshan race, who was also a universe master. Luo Feng was about to become the third. He had hopes of becoming a universe master too. This made him burn with excitement within. Universe master, reaching the pinnacle of knight level like the Tian Shi Palace leader, or Shi Luo Duo were already considered huge powers of the universe. As to reach the level of universe master, with the power of time and space in his hands, one is even able to revive warriors. It would make the race have a never-ending supply of warriors. The human race and the Yangshan race are both my children. The mountain-like majestic old being gazed at Luo Feng, his voice booming throughout. You've passed the many hidden tests, and even survived the Star Tower test. You are now my disciple, and probably the last one too. Luo Feng was shocked. Last disciple. Who could say what the future held? But this being seemed to have already confirmed that he would only have 3. Don't be shocked. The great being's gaze was like sunlight itself, shining on Luo Feng's soul. For your senior and you, since the beginning of the universe, I've long had a plan and spent countless amounts of effort, and used wealth accumulated over countless years on treasures for you too. A large amount of treasures. Luo Feng was stunned. Like building the Star Tower, even if your entire human race uses all its energy, even if you had my skills in creating treasures, how many can you build? The being turned to Put. My help towards Put, however, has been the least. Put bowed. Teacher, without your help, I would have probably stayed an undying all my life. Even without me, you would still have become a knight. The being shook his head. Back then I took in many underlings, and all of them with great talents. I've helped so many of them, they all had the same amount of help and resources, yet they all remained knights. Only you became a universe master. It can't be helped. Every treasure recognizing a master is incredibly harsh. I began preparing for your 2 juniors long before they were born. I already have my own treasures. Put said. Your treasure isn't worth mentioning. Compared to the 6 pinnacle races and their universe masters, yours is only considered normal. The being shook his head. I'm currently preparing a treasure for you. I've collected it for countless eras, and it's already almost done. It'll probably take another 10 million eras for it to have some hope. Put bowed excitedly, replying respectfully, I will be eternally grateful for everything teacher does. Ha ha, my disciples will get nothing less. The being laughed loudly. I only hope that one of you 3 will actually catch up to me. Ha ha, that would be the legend of the universe, both teacher and students, ultimate warriors, ha ha ha. Luo Feng embraced the thought within. This great being had extremely few disciples, and both the second and third disciples were picked from races he made, creating his own techniques, and picking the most exceptional of the lot. It was obvious that this being had harsh requirements for his disciples. Outside of the 2 races he created, he only picked the one underling that he had great feelings for, the only one that became a universe master to be his disciple. Other than that, despite the trillions of races, the countless eras that passed, among the countless geniuses, he never accepted another disciple. The primal chaos city leader was different, as he carried the weight of humanity on his shoulders. However, when absolute geniuses of powerful beings appear, he would accept them as disciples. He had a whole bunch of disciples, and many more in name. Even the founder of the huge Axe Dojo was similar. When it concerned the entire race, they were all like that. This great being, however, was a completely unique life form, with no race to his name. He didn't care about the geniuses at all. He nurtured 2 races as his children, only then would he put in the effort to raise them. Luo Feng, my disciple, you haven't called me teacher yet. The being looked at Luo Feng. Luo Feng bowed respectfully, shouting excitedly, teacher. The great being was the founder of the Earth race. He could be said to be the great creator, and without him, there probably wouldn't even be an Earth race. Okay. As my student, I will do my best to help you. The being's voice boomed. He looked at Luo Feng. I have 3 methods in teaching my disciples. 1. I like to prepare the best resources for them. Secondly, I will not teach any techniques at all. Thirdly, I will not care if you die or live, and I will definitely not revive you if you die. Luo Feng was stunned. Not teaching any techniques. Don't care if he lived or died. A true warrior cannot be taught. The being said solemnly. Everything relies on yourself. Every universe master comes from their own created techniques and growth. By having a teacher to always protect you, you'll never become strong. The way I teach my disciples, I don't teach techniques, don't care about their survival, and I will only provide resources. If you fall along the way, I will pick another candidate from the Earth race to accept the life or death inheritance, and find another 3rd disciple. The 2 races I've nurtured are destined to always have their leader, and the leader may not always be in each generation, you are but one of them. Let's hope you will forever remain the leader. His voice boomed, straight into Luo Feng's soul. And the voice of this great being was like vast energy, making others naturally submit. Understood. Luo Feng said respectfully. You understand the theory. No matter how powerful the teacher is, no matter how much resources he provides, the treasures he provides, if the student doesn't train, then it would be impossible to even reach the undying level. The being said seriously. The external resources are very important, the self-training is even more so. However, the stronger one gets, the less the external help will benefit him. Using endless treasures will allow one to train a little to become undying. Becoming a knight, however, will have harsh requirements on training. A universe master, that's incredibly tough. If you become a universe master, to improve to the next level, where I am at, no treasure will help at all. Your 1st and 2nd seniors have all been stuck at this point for countless eras. Other than humanity's huge axe founder, no one else has been able to break through. I understand. I will do my best. Luo Feng said excitedly. Many warriors were afraid of not having enough resources. Why were the pinnacle races and superpowers fighting? Why massacre and have war? All for resources. Nurturing geniuses required resources. A warrior required resources to grow. With that, it was akin to having the foundation, everything else relied on their own training. And this great being was providing enough resources for Luo Feng to become a great being himself. This was a terrifying amount of resources. I've prepared 2 treasures each for you and your 2nd senior. A total of 4 treasures. Of which 3 are about the same level, only the Star Tower is different. Your Star Tower is very special, as it is much stronger than any treasure your senior has. The being exclaimed. Back then, I spent countless resources and treasures to create the Star Tower. In the midst, Something special happened that was totally unexpected, making its power grow much more than before, making it the strongest treasure among all of them. Even though its power grew, it also made the process of recognizing a master tens of thousands of times harder. For the tower to recognize a master, I specially nurtured the souls and willpower of the Earth race to be much sturdier. Even so, the first and second candidates both failed. And back then, the treasure for the Yangshan race easily recognized its master, unlike you, having to go through so much. Luo Feng gasped within. Right, it was torturous. He recalled the over 6,000 years of pain. Every second felt like a year. These 6,000 years were much harder than a normal 100 million years. It was like an endless hell, one without an end, suffering within. Fighting to stay alive, finally holding on to the thought of his family. Until he grew too weak. Luckily at the critical moment he succeeded. The Star Tower's abilities are very strong, and because of the special change, even I don't know its limits. Just to have it recognize a master alone was extremely tough, triggering it is even tougher. The being said, Luo Feng understood as well. Like the Shouwu wings, its basic form alone required comprehending the first level of beast-god transformation. The wings had little use for universe masters. But the Star Tower was suitable even for the greatest of beings. One of the strongest treasures of the universe. Without a master controlling, it left the universe masters dumbfounded. Even the strongest of the four pinnacle races couldn't forcefully take it. The requirements for using it would naturally be much harsher than the Shouwu wings. Your human teacher, the primal chaos city leader, is the highest of universe masters in the vast universe. Even your second senior is at most his level, and even possible weaker. However, if you ever become a universe master with these two treasures, especially the Star Tower, it will definitely make you at least be his level. You might even be able to suppress him. This is the power of the strongest treasure. The ancient being said, the Star Tower is one, and I've prepared another treasure for you, named Force Armor. Force Armor? Luo Feng was stunned. The Force Armor had been placed amongst the Yangshan race, and is being guarded by your second senior. This armor, with special resources, can produce different levels of armor pearls, namely the soldier, general, king and emperor armor pearls. These are all suited for the Yangshan race, but are mainly used by knights and below. At most raising the entire strength as a whole. The Force Armor is the true treasure, which is even suitable for universe masters to use. It has endless power and is your second treasure. Luo Feng was overwhelmed when he heard this. The soldier, general, king and emperor armors were produced by the Force Armor. One Force Armor and the Star Tower, which was even more terrifying. The great being had prepared two true treasures for the leader of the Earth race. These were both more intrepid than the Shouwu wings, and is enough to make even universe masters go crazy for. Let's hope that the requirements for using them aren't too harsh. Luo Feng was a little worried. With his little bit of strength, would he be able to use